Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I am your host, Matt Belair. Today's guest is a creative muse and mentor, sacred movement artist, teacher, and trainer committed to guiding women to connect with their brilliance. She is the creator of the Temple Body Arts School of Sacred Sensuality and Dance, offering in-depth immersions and teacher trainings to help women access their creative potential and live their yes. She is the co-author of The Path of the Priestess book, Discover Your Divine Purpose. Driven by her lifelong passion for dance, creative expression, and Tantra yoga, she teaches and performs around the globe. Alongside her husband, Brendan, she co-founded the Envision Festival in Costa Rica, a conscious festival celebrating music, art, and sacred movement. Together, they co-founded Danyasa Eco Retreat in the beautiful beach town of Dominical, Costa Rica. Welcome to the show, Sofiah Tom.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Such a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much for coming. Well, I didn't touch on this. I probably should, like how we first came into contact, which is at the Oregon eclipse, and you were on stage and you were all in gold and you were dancing, and it was super mesmerizing because you're a spectacular dancer and performer. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, holy smokes, like this woman is like a goddess, like she has it all together. And then the following day we are just getting some food and then we're chatting. I was like, oh, you're that girl. And then I find out that you have the Eco Resort, that you're the co-founder of Envision, which I've heard is spectacular. One of the festivals I really want to get to. I've heard really incredible things. And, now we're here. So I'm so excited to share your story and have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Yes.
So to get started, because, when I read your bio and I started to dig into all of the work that you've done and what you're currently creating now, which is quite a bit, you've done a lot. So do you want to give the audience who are unfamiliar with you a little bit of background on your journey, how you got to where you are today, and then we'll dive into some of the amazing things you've been up to?
Sure. Yes. The golden threads of life and how they bring you to this moment. Well, I have always danced since since I could walk, I could dance. And I feel very blessed that I came into a family of healers and also fourth generation in a spiritual organization called Subud that is founded from Indonesia. And so I came in with a head start, which I am so grateful for. When I was younger, I thought that was just what life was like. And as I got older and realized, like, wow, I actually really came in with some resources and tools that I have that I can offer others. And it was really in my early 20s when I was studying dance at University of Oregon, and realized this is really not what dance is for me, because you had to get to a certain level of ballet and modern, and it was just so competitive and it was just so not me. And actually my Achilles tendon went out, and basically my body was just like, no, and just stopped me in my tracks. And it was really in that moment that I was like, okay, something else needs to happen here. Like, I don't really know what my path is. I know I love to dance. And I knew that there was something called dance therapy, but I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even have my own computer. This was many years ago. It must have been in like 95 or 97. Wow. Okay, so 20 years ago. And I go to the library to go on the computer and to look up, what is dance therapy? And right there before my eyes, Naropa Institute popped up. And I just started crying. I was like, oh my God, there's a place like this. And it was this Buddhist liberal arts school that many of you may have heard of now. It's definitely grown. It's now a university. And it was in Boulder, Colorado. And they had this program that was a dance therapy, an inter-arts program. So it was like performing arts and dance therapy. And in that moment, it was like every cell of my body was like, yes, this is it. And so I said bye-bye to you guys in your modern dance and ballet, even though it's gorgeous, and I honor the technique. And my path was to definitely go down the healing path. And so, yeah, really going down that path and developing myself as an artist, as a movement artist, you know, with healing, like really healing arts and exploring all the different ways through performance and through working with people like in the 5 rhythms and different modalities that you could really help people. And I knew that, I mean, dance therapy was so new then, and it was all about like working with people, different populations, with diseases, and like, you know, okay, can we lift our arms and feel better? Like so basic. But there was something in me that was like, okay, there's something here that we can really like use dance to help people to like know themselves more. Because for me, it was my church. It was the way that I connected with the divine and where I could completely surrender. And I was just in my total connection to self and bliss. And I wanted to offer that to others. And so really from there in the last 20 years, it's been this incredible unfolding of just developing myself more and exploring and going down different avenues of, you know, performing and sharing kind of ritual intention through performance to reach more people and to awaken or water little seeds with my dance, whether that's on stage or teaching. And so it's really been this beautiful journey for me of developing how I bring the dance. And now I also trained in expressive healing arts and body work and yoga and goddess embodiment and tantra, and like bringing all of these different threads to create this tapestry that has become Danyasa Eco Retreat where I live, that, you know, definitely helped to birth Envision Festival, and that now really my focus is on the Temple Body Art School of Sacred Sensuality and Dance, and really giving women permission to reclaim their power and to find their own way of expressing their fullness in this life. So that's a short little nutshell.
Yeah, that's pretty spectacular. And you kind of glazed over the extensive yoga teacher training you've had as well. You went to India and trained specific type of yoga. What was the story with that?
Well, actually, in India, I went after I graduated from Naropa. I actually had this vision that I wanted to go back to India in this lifetime and study temple dance. So that was actually my intention for going there, and also to study yoga, which is actually really hard. I mean, it's probably much easier now because this was back in 2000. But yeah, it's definitely. I ended up really just being on my own journey of studying Tantra yoga there. And I have to say, the teacher was, as soon as I figured out what he was actually doing with the women, I kind of was like bowed out. I was like, okay, well, thanks for the practices, and I'm going to go do it on my own. And I actually feel like part of my journey has really been about gathering these tools and then just developing myself, like without really having master teachers. It's, you know, there's definitely been incredible teachers in my life. And at the same time, I've very much, like, I came to Costa Rica and people were not ready to really come to I called it embody grace, a playful and prayerful expression of the self through dance. That's what I had developed. And when I moved to Costa Rica 10 years ago, I mean, people would not come to this class. They were scared. So I just started teaching yoga. And I call it bamboo yoga. And people would come. And so that's actually what really, like, I dove into Anusara then and like actually got my certificate. I didn't even have like the piece of paper before that. I had been studying for, 20 years. But so it's been a very interesting journey for me. And yeah, I think we all have such unique paths. And really, for me, it's about finding my own inner teacher and really developing my connection to my higher self and my inner guidance and that inner compass, and trusting myself, because there's so much wisdom that lives within our bodies. I mean, this is really what temple body arts is. It's like helping women, especially, to awaken to this, the ancient wisdom that lives within. And so when we give ourselves, when we have a practice to connect in and to empty out, like, we can remember. And so I feel like I'm here to help people to remember, ultimately, that life is the path of remembrance.
Beautiful. I love that. What it makes me think about, and I like how you touched on it, was just that we are our own masters. So for me, the background is in martial arts, and Bruce Lee is the example for me, where he would learn from masters, but when something didn't resonate in a way, he would just take that and leave. Too bad you had a sketchy yoga instructor. That's no good. But that exists, right? And there's a lot of teachers, and there's levels of teachers, there's levels of mastery. So, but to remember always that you're the master, that when you really tune in is like, okay, this is a great guide, thank you. And ultimately I'm the ultimate guide, ultimately I am the ultimate teacher, and let me see how this information resonates with me and how I'm going to express that. So I think that there's so much wisdom from applying that with yourself, and using your own internal compass to guide you, through the techniques that you want to express through dance. In the same way with your classical instruction, it can be the same thing for classical martial arts. This is the way it's got to be done. And then, Bruce Lee is like, no, man, like, I'm going to go learn this type of martial art and this type and this type, and I'm going to make it into something my own. And dance, I feel like, is very similar. In that way. And for me, because of festivals, I have gotten into dance a lot more because it's movement. And in the Shaolin temple, if you look at the Shaolin monks move, it's basically dance. It's this high form of really tremendous acrobatic dance. So you can help me too, ask the right questions to kind of bring out like the wisdom here, because some of this is like, I'm not really going to know which way to go. But what I'm curious about is, when you're doing the temple body arts, like, what is that experience like? What are you wanting to give? And like, kind of, what do you teach the women? Like, how do you empower them, or what are some of the experiences that they may have?
Yes. Well, I just want to touch on too, one thing that you said, which I think is really learning to have discernment. With Bruce Lee, or with myself, or with any of us, like, when it's time to turn, when it's time to say, okay, thank you, and now I'm listening within, or I'm turning. And that level of discernment is absolutely key for navigating in this life, whatever we're doing. And what I teach is really about how to listen deeply to know what is in alignment with our highest yes and what is not. And so really, like, how can we live our yes? How can we live our highest yes? And so in order for that, it's really this deep listening, which is very much what I teach in Temple Body Arts. And I use I invoke different goddess archetypes, different energies of different goddesses, to help train women to access different aspects of themselves. So, for instance, we'll begin with Kuan Yin. So, really accessing the Divine Mother, accessing this space within us of fully loving ourselves, accepting ourselves, having compassion. So, if we don't fully love ourselves, how can we really excel and do the work that we're here to do? And so it's like starting with ourselves and healing what needs to be healed. And my work has actually really shifted in the last 2 years. And what really propelled me to birth Temple Body Art School is actually getting pregnant. I've been wanting to get pregnant for over 5 years, and was not having any luck with it, and then finally did and miscarried, and shared my story. And it was just incredible to see how many women I touched with just sharing my truth. It's actually called womb truth. And, realizing how many women go through miscarriages, or choose to have an abortion, and the shame and the holding that they're keeping it in, and not talking about it, and how that can create dis-ease, that can create all kinds of things in the body and in our lives when we don't truly honor what is happening and speak about it and heal our wombs. And so it really took me on this incredible journey of really accessing my womb. And then I got pregnant again and actually almost died. Like, I didn't even know that was possible in this day and age, but I lost so much blood. And through that experience, though, it just it completely propelled me into the space of this is my work and this is what's being called for. And it's we're in this wild time right now. I mean, the earth is raging, Mother Nature is raging in all her ways. And there's even this whole movement that's just arisen with Me Too and women speaking out about being sexually harassed. And there's so many different layers. It's the shadow is coming to the light. And so I feel just so passionate to really help the women to heal our wombs, because as we heal our wombs, we heal the womb of the mother. We literally can heal Mother Earth. And as we heal, we're the ones that are birthing, we're the ones that birth, and we can support the men like yourself, Matt, who are here to support the rise of the divine feminine and masculine and this consciousness movement that is happening. And so for me, it's this deep, incredible movement that's happening from my womb and just being guided to birth. And now I'm actually at the space I've just completely surrendered to what that is with having a baby, and just I am here in service of the divine feminine and masculine to birth the school and to support as many women as I can, and really helping them to step into their power so that they can also go out and become their full selves, to become temple body arts guides, to be able to bring this work through. And so working with the different goddess archetypes helps us to become more fully whole, helps us to access the part within us that can really heal and release and know our own value and forgive and express ourselves fully, finding our voices and finding our power and strength, and really reclaiming. A huge part of this work too is about reclaiming sexual sovereignty, which definitely goes hand in hand with what's happening with the Me Too movement, that I feel really inspired to share, is for women to see okay, yes, but let's not put that frequency out of pointing the finger and being in that victim space, but let's actually see wow, yeah, this is happening. And I feel that a lot of it is miseducation. It's not men not being educated, and they just so desire to be close to the goddess, to the divine feminine, that's they have no idea even how to communicate, how to connect. And so it's completely warped, and the shadow has come through in so many ways. And I mean, it's so deep and layered, and I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it's definitely present right now. And it's definitely a piece around this reclaiming of our sexual sovereignty, to recognize that we have the power to make our own choices as well, and to speak out when something is not in alignment with that, rather than holding it back, and to really rise up and to see that we have a choice in how we show up in our bodies and in the world, and how we respond to life. And so the tools that I teach, it's really like offering this medicine bundle, this tool belt of all these different ways that women can access these parts of themselves to be able to navigate through life. And so we do a lot of meditation and yoga and working with the jade egg, the yoni eggs, to really cultivate a sexual creative energy and moving it through and learning about discernment and focus and really honing in and bringing in the masculine and the feminine within ourselves. Like we actually end, when I do the Temple Body Arts training, it's like we end with an inner marriage ceremony to really become fully whole and bring those pieces together. And so, yeah, it's like accessing all of the wisdom that is living within and allowing ourselves to shine our brilliance ultimately through, through dance. And so there's technique there, but it's more like, it is like martial arts too, I feel. And it's like connecting to the hara, connecting to, the core, the center, rooting into the earth, pulling the earth energy up, recognizing the power that we have to move energy in the body, through the body, out to connect with others. And so, yeah, it's a lot about understanding the power that we hold and knowing how to harness and direct that Shakti, that feminine creative life force out into the world and create a life that we really desire. We are so powerful, and our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions are creating this dream canvas that we are dancing upon. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, there, oh my goodness, there's so many things that I was like, how am I gonna formulate a question? But I think that you touched on a lot of really incredible things there. And first of all, thanks for sharing your story so candidly. I know that a lot of people will deal with really challenging things like that, and it can break them. It can break a lot of women, those things, and just having the courage to share is really powerful, so they know someone is out there, because I think often you can feel really alone when you go through that. And so, thank you for sharing that so candidly and openly. And what else? Holy smokes. You covered a lot there. I really like how you spoke about when you're saying following your highest yes. I see that, one of Bashar's consistent quotes is follow your highest bliss, follow your highest joy. And I feel like that's what you're helping people to do. And the root of that, before you can follow that highest joy or bliss, you have to get to the point of loving yourself, which is the question I want to ask. But I wanted to add one more thing first. So how can you help women and people just become more whole? And I think that women have a very different challenge than men. It's really, hard being a woman. It's hard being a guy this day and age too. I'm not going to lie, but it's really hard being a woman too. You guys have to deal with all kinds of crap. I wanted to touch on the archetypes, though, the power of that. I have the Kuan Yin Oracle deck. So if you guys ever want an Oracle deck, get that deck. If you read it as a book or any card you pull, there's so much friggin' wisdom in that book. And it comes with meditations and processes. And even if you just pick any card, it's so on point and so wonderful. And when you're talking about an archetype, whether you look at an ascended master archetype like Jesus, or you look, for me, again, it's Bruce Lee, or maybe this dance person that you grew up loving, that person or master, or even if it's a fictional character, when we look at the archetype, we can embody their skill set. We know what the signature is. So because Bruce Lee existed, we know his story and we know his skill set. We can connect with that. Same with Kuan Yin or Jesus. We can look at that and say, you know what? I love how loving and compassionate and all these things, and we can bring those in, and then we actually make that a part of our own unique stew. We're taking these bits, just like you did with dance and Bruce did with martial arts. So I wanted to touch on that. And so the question is, the fundamental thing before moving forward when we're doing a lot of this work is helping people really get connected with themselves, which is a healing process, as you said, and connecting with loving yourself. And I think that's such an important topic. So can you give some of your suggestions on how you might help someone feel and experience more self-love? And then maybe a woman or man with this whole Me Too movement, coming into a place of empowerment, because I think that the victim mode is not ideal for healing. You can be, if something terrible happens to me, I can be a victim or angry for a day or a month or a year or my whole life. That's my right, that happened. But if I want to heal from it, the victim mode might not serve my healing. It'll be a crutch in this baggage that's now taken my life and put it in a whole new direction, rather than coming to that full healing where it's not going to change how you express yourself, ideally. So if you wanted to speak on that, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, yeah, it's all a choice. And that doesn't negate the trauma and intensity that many people come into this life with, whether it's past life and, in this life with our parents and with our families and with, the potential violence or trauma that we were exposed to definitely shapes who we are. And so there's different levels of healing that need to happen. And so, I'm just kind of feeling into many different women that I'm working with right now, and just how, we all have our own stories. And there comes a time too where it's like, okay, yes, that was my story. And, it's good to be able to work through and recognize like where certain behaviors have come from in this lifetime, because of the way my parents were, or because of the way that I was brought up. I am now this way. And so by doing a lot of healing of inner child work, and that's not necessarily my expertise, so it's really like there's so many incredible healers out there and people who really work specifically with, healing the inner child. I feel like that is absolutely key, so that you can show up here now as an adult and claiming all of the parts of yourself that you may have left behind, willingly or unwillingly. And so one of the practices that's really powerful is very simple. There's actually two that come to mind right now. So one is the Ho'oponopono, which you may know, Matt, and many people, and it's from Hawaii, and super beautiful and so simple. And you can do it with yourself in the mirror. And you just look into the mirror, and it's always good too to really take a moment to empty out. We become so full in our minds and our psyches and all of the stuff and the distractions and the things that are pulling at us. So it's like to be able to really receive the benefits of any practice, it's good to really kind of take a moment to just ground in to our breath and our body. And let's even just do that right now. So you can even just close your eyes and give your weight into the chair or onto the floor, wherever you are right now, just making contact and bringing yourself fully present here and feeling your breath expanding in your body. And as you exhale, just emptying out, letting go of anything, any thoughts that aren't serving you, anything that's pulling your distraction away from this moment. So just taking a few moments to just empty out. I like to call it becoming a hollow bamboo. And then you can open your eyes and just come to the mirror. And mirror work is so powerful. I mean, when was the last time that you sat in front of the mirror and just eye gazed into yourself? And there's something beautiful that happens though, that when we can really go beyond the mind and all the thoughts and all the judgments and all the stuff, just to be able to really connect. And so Ho'oponopono is simply saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And so you can do this with yourself, and you can do it with a friend, with a partner, with your family, and it's really powerful and simple. So this is a beautiful practice. And to do that with yourself in the mirror, I mean, we are so harsh on ourselves. If we actually spoke to others like we speak to ourselves most of the time, we wouldn't have any friends. So, you know, sorry to make light of it, but it's like, this is, you know, ahimsa is one of the philosophies of yoga, one of the 8 limbs, and it's ahimsa is about being kind to oneself, being kind to one another, treating yourself like you would like others to treat yourself. And so this act of actually saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, to yourself is a beautiful place to start. So there's another practice too, which I really love, which my father taught me, called calling your name. And it's really just this meditation where you are calling your name inside, and you're just like, I like to say it like it's like you're calling all parts of yourself back to yourself, all the different parts that may be fragmented, and just bringing your full self home into your body, present here now. And maybe there's another name that you even feel more connected to. So whatever name that is for you, that you're calling all parts of yourself home, is a really beautiful practice as well, and just very simple. So for me, I've had a really a bad neck injury actually for the last 12 years, which has definitely been one of my biggest teachers, being a dancer and a mover. And through that process, though, I actually went on a really deep self-love journey, because that's all I could do, really. It's like when you're in that pain, it's like life will bring us the challenges that we need to teach us the things that we need to learn. And I had to learn how to be still, and how to really meditate, and how to find that stillness and that connection to the masculine principle within myself as well. And in that, really dedicating every day just a little bit of time to self-love. And it really became my practice, and a big foundation of who I am today and what I offer. So yeah, we must start there.
That's beautiful. I want to draw a bridge for the boys, because you touched on a lot of important things there. I had Arturo Massaro on, and I don't know how old he's, like 50, and when he was going through his transition, he said that one of the practices that he had was simply going into a mirror and telling himself he loved himself. And this is a grown man. And I think from the masculine side, one of the things that came up in an ayahuasca ceremony once was one of the men speaking on how challenging it is, because our traditional conditioning is tough. You know, you don't share your feelings. You just bottle that up, and you're not supposed to express it. Then alone talk about loving yourself, then alone loving your brother or your, or your friend or your sister or whatever. That's just not a common practice. So the healing is the resistant to the healing. And, you can just think about, a 15-year-old boy, and he's saying, I love myself, or I love you, or whatever. And then his buddy comes in and says some sort of homophobic slur, which I probably would have done when I was 15. But to let the guys know, and everyone, like, this is the most important work there is. And so it's a very common practice. And all of the high level business people or the embodied people or the spiritual masters or whoever it is, whoever I've seen on a very high level goes through that process. And something happens when we're kids that makes us feel not loved, that makes us feel not worthy, not good enough. And we're consistently trying to heal that. But a lot of times we don't want to face that trauma. And so we're acting out our lives as adults without realizing that these are actions based on fear from something we had as kids, and it's not our authentic selves. We can't really move forward. And when you're talking about that calling your name meditation, I find that really interesting, because let's say I was doing it for myself and you call all of this stuff in, well, you would want to call all of that darkness in too, because that's who you are. That's it. And not to shy away from it, not to shy away from those challenging experiences, but to embody them as a complete you, and know that you can love all of you, not just the bits, not just the perfect bits, not just the photos you put on Facebook where you're super shiny and super wonderful, just the dark bits too, because that's equally important. And the Ho'oponopono, I was kind of Googling a little bit here to find the exact study, but there's this guy named Hugh Len who did a Ho'oponopono study on a mental institution, and literally just he's this I think he was a therapist, and you can Google it, Hewlen, and he just took these people that were in a mental hospital and just kept doing that over and over on their faces, and one at a time, surely enough, they got better. And so people and therapists and doctors are looking at this just thinking, what the flying hell is going on? Like, there's no way that this is possible, but it's happening. So, this is a little bit about, out there remote healing or things like that, but really, really extraordinarily powerful practice. So I think that's all extremely valuable insight. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about dance, because something, again, for me that I've explored more, I think it's movement. It's getting into the body. When you're dancing, I'm sure you're meditating. When I'm skateboarding, I'm meditating. When I'm snowboarding, I'm meditating. When I'm martial arts, I meditate. I'm fully focused in the body. And that's a practice I think that we need, whether it's some sort of dance. So do you have any, if I want to kind of explore the way that you would practice, let's say I did a month all inclusive and you're just giving me all the goods on how to dance and how to explore myself through dance. Can you give me and the listeners some advice where we can just get funky at home and start to maybe take an idea or a process and work with it while we're, to get started?
Yes. First, I just want to comment on, yes, thank you for bringing up the part about really bringing all the parts of ourselves in, because definitely, the work I'm doing and the work that we have to do in the world is about embracing the shadow and the light, and you cannot have one without the other. So, and many times I think too, like even in just sharing my story of the miscarriages and even my neck injury, it's like whatever the challenges are actually end up being the biggest teachers. So the more that we can embrace them and be with them and learn from them, the more we can grow and evolve. So I wanted to touch on that. So thank you. And yes, these practices are definitely for men as well. Now, as far as dancing, I think, music is key, and I love music. I'm very picky, and I'm very blessed to have so many incredible friends that are producers, and so I have a really amazing library of music, and I do share screenshots of my playlists a lot after my classes. And I also am a DJ on Yogi tunes. So I have a couple mixes on there, and I'm going to do more. And Yogi Tunes is a beautiful platform, very much like Spotify, but it's all music. He's looking it up now. It's all music for yoga, dance, meditation, martial arts, massage. So it's like such a beautiful library. And a lot of my friends, I feel like you probably know a lot of people there too, Matt. But you can go on there, and it's actually a great way because they have different genres. So like if you wanted to create a playlist there you could go on and like choose something that was relaxing and then build it up, or they have mixes on there as well. So music is definitely helpful. You want music that's really going to move you. That's a really big key of what I offer. So here in the training, it's really like a shamanic movement journey that I'm taking people on with my voice and with music. And I'm actually right now, I just recorded all of my sessions, and I'm wanting to put up some sessions where it's a whole guided shamanic journey with the music and my voice, so that you can just literally put it on and just have your own experience at home. So that is coming. That has been a request, and I would love to be able to, have that accessible. I do have something that is catered for women. However, I think it would be really powerful for men to do as well. And, it's important for all of us to access our own divine feminine and masculine. And so I have online modules, and where it's actually like guided journeys, guided practices to really access different parts of yourself. So I have my philosophy and practices which help to, it's like giving you foundational technique, but in a very different way than you would usually. So I have one that's called Rooting Your Temple Body, and it's 6 different videos, and it takes you on a journey. Like the first is really about creating sacred space and your intention, and then it works with the bamboo spirit, it's called, and it's connecting to your root chakra and your crown, and really recognizing that your body is a vessel and is an instrument of the divine, and really creating this hollow bamboo in this space of connecting to pure consciousness. And I'm kind of going off here because you asked me specifically about dance, but for me, I feel like, what I'm inspired to teach is like really accessing these different ways of connecting to the body. And so I teach a lot about bamboo, being that we have this central core, that we have a lotus flower in our pelvic floor that roots us into Mama Gaia, and that we pull that energy up, and we have a hollow bamboo core in our central axis, and we can pull the petals of the lotus flower up the hollow bamboo core, activating Mula Bandha, activating that root, and then invite the belly button towards the spine and feel that that connects you into your Uddiyana Bandha. We call that in yoga, like that core, and also connecting into the Hara, and then bringing the energy up. And this is Uddiyana Bandha, so taking the tongue to the soft palate and back slightly, like you're putting on a little hood, and connecting these 3 bandhas is the Mahabandha, which helps to really contain your energy. And so working with circulating the sexual creative energy, and knowing how to empty it and how to listen, and it's like really tuning into your inner compass. And so that is the first kind of foundational, and then I really teach about listening to your innate wisdom, moving into your sacral chakra, into your heart. So like, what is it to really listen and to move with fluidity? Because the second chakra is all about sensuality, fluidity, going with the flow. So you could just create a whole dance that was all about, listening to that, and coming into the heart. And so really, listening to this deeper wisdom of the sacral chakra and the heart. And then moving into the graceful warrior archetype. So like finding that way to move through and dance as the warrior, and unifying the masculine and the feminine. So I talk about that as an inner cross, and connecting into our inner value, to that inner gem that lives within us, and moving with strength and courage and confidence. And so I have a whole movement practice with that. And then we move into the dream canvas, which is the throat and the third eye. And that's recognizing how powerful you are, and your voice, all the words that you speak, the thoughts that you have, the actions that you take are painting this canvas. And so I guide a whole journey of imagining you're covered in paint and you're painting the canvas with your body, with your thoughts, with your sounds. And then we move into living artfully, which is waking up all of the chakras, all of the bija sounds, all of the sounds for the chakras, and really, moving through dancing, creating your own dance. So it's a journey to help people to really come into their full creative potential through the body. And so, that's one, rooting the temple body. And then I have a whole other module that's all about awakening the goddess. And that's like working with the different goddess archetypes. And then I have a whole nother one that's birthing sexual sovereignty. And there will be more dance in that. I'm still in that cultivation, creation time of using the yoni egg and the jade egg and really cultivating that sexual creative energy and finding your dance, because that's ultimately what it is. But by learning how to open the body, how to align the body, how to use the breath, how to connect to the different chakras, then you become a better dancer. So yoga and Tantra are especially amazing foundation to train the body to be able to become a better dancer as well, and to be able to flow on the dance floor and through life.
Amazing. That is some very beautiful wisdom right there, because the way that I'm equating it, and I'm curious your feedback on this, but I did a few Burning Mans ago, I had this insight when I was dancing. And so my background is in, consciousness, psychology, reality creation, specifically through sport, but all reality creation and all that kind of fun stuff. And everything it was talking about is get into a meditative state. Imagine that I have the thing that I want. So if it's on my snowboard, it could be a double backflip, or if it's abundance, it could be abundance, or an ideal partner, or whatever the case is. You bring it into reality through visualization. And when you're describing that, what I realized at Burning Man is that when I sit in meditation and I try to imagine the ideal reality that I want, it's a little bit challenging to bring up the energy of it. It's because the more energy you bring up, the feeling of it is your magnetic charge to the quantum field. From Joe Dispenza, that's his thought. I'm down with it. But the more energy and feeling you bring into it, the more power you have. And so when I'm dancing and thinking about my ideal reality at Burning Man and just loving it, I can create so much more feeling energy through movement than I can from just sitting my butt down. So when you're going through these processes and you're moving your body and you get a cue, right? This is your warrior, or this is like, I don't know, healing your inner child, or whatever cue you would want. Your body is its own form of intelligence. And a lot of the stuff that I've been getting into at the highest level, I've heard of people, and 2 podcasts ago, Penny was talking about this, but your body might just get up and start moving because it is the intelligence. It's not Matt Belair, knows what this body does. It's like if a jaguar comes into this room, I might jump and do some crazy parkour stuff. And then when my mind will come in and think, what the heck? It wasn't Matt telling my body to move. It was my body doing it first. So we're allowing the body's intelligence to be accessed through movement, and we're just giving it a conscious cue. Mm-hmm. So also in martial arts and Tai Chi, we're moving to move energy. We're moving the body to connect with our energy. Dance is the exact same thing. So now you're combining an element of consciousness with it, which I think is extremely powerful, because I'm just imagining myself doing all that with what I already do when I do Tai Chi or martial arts, and I can just see all of this powerful energy moving, and then the ability to just add new and different conscious cues that might come from me through going through the processes. So that's really spectacular stuff. I know that you've got to run, I want to be respectful of your time. So I'm going to give you a bunch of stuff, and you can just kind of give your closing thoughts. I can do it at the end of the podcast. I can say closing, I hope. And if you want to take one of these on, go for it. So what I wanted to talk about was, you do a little bit of Tantra yoga. So I was curious. I was going to get into that. We didn't have time, but what the heck is Tantra yoga? What's the deal with that? Ideally, we're not going to India and finding unsavory characters or anywhere because that's just not cool. And then I was going to talk a little bit about bridging the masculine and feminine. For me, being a man, I'm having these circumstances where, my dad, I just call him French Canadian, great guy, but not to be messed with, very direct. My mom, probably the most compassionate, loving person I've ever met. And so when somebody is just acting a fool, let's say, I feel compelled to call them out on it, because this is like from, my dad is literally like, you're just going to get it. Right. And most of the time he's on the point. He's just got no tact to it. You know what I mean? There's no tact. So I try to do it with a loving tact. And that, for me, martial arts has helped me bridge those gaps where there's times to be forceful, stand in your power in a compassionate way, not in a fu man way, but like that's the bridge for me. That's how I use those energies, and they're both very useful at times. So that's my rant, and you can kind of give closing thoughts and pick up on maybe one of those topics if you want to share a little bit.
Well, they actually go hand in hand. The graceful warrior is very much that bridge, because I think that in our culture, many times when we think about the warrior, it's like kind of this rage and anger and like really intense, unexpressed rage and anger. With the graceful warrior, that many years ago I was just inspired, and it just kind of came to me like, okay, the graceful warrior, it's really this grace of the feminine way of like allowing and enveloping and opening to be receptive. But at the same time, the warrior to me represents the masculine principle, which is that penetration and that focus, to be able to pull out our sword and cut through when somebody's out of line, and we can find that sword to cut through and put them in their place, but to do it with grace, to do it with love. And so that feels like it's been a beautiful place to really explore and to teach others, men and women, and like how to find that unification within. And there's the inner cross, which is a beautiful symbol, and you can think of it like the vertical axis of the cross is the masculine, and is our connection to earth and sky, and also represents like this sword of integrity and truth and penetration again, but also like the bamboo core symbolizes that. And then the horizontal is the feminine aspect, and the Shakti. So if we bring in the Tantra, the feminine is the Shakti. Shakti is the feminine creative life force. It's what brings things to life. The masculine principle is Shiva, which is that stillness, is that one-pointed focus, is the blank canvas in which Shakti dances to bring life into being. So she brings the formlessness into form. And so there's this dance happening all the time in life within us and around us that is Shiva and Shakti, that is the masculine and the feminine, and that is Tantra. And unfortunately, sex sells. Sex is amazing. It's a spiritual bypass. It's a way that we can all feel good. It's a way, but it's also, there's the dark shadow part of it, and it's everything. And of course that has become like what Tantra is known for, is sex, tantric sex. But ultimately, their Tantra is really about recognizing the body as an instrument of the divine, and that it's not about God being outside of us. It's about God being within us. It's about we are creating. We are the creators. With the masculine and the feminine principle within us, we are creating life and bringing the formlessness into form. So there are many levels, and it's recognizing that we can move beyond this dimension and this sphere into complete connection with the one. And sex is one of the ways that we can do that. Conscious, sacred sexuality and coming together with ourselves and the divine, or with another, that we can explore those energies of Shiva and Shakti, and that we can completely empty out and become one in this dance of life. So, there's that piece, but in the way that I'm bringing it through, it's really helping people to train our bodies as a vessel, as an instrument. I mean, for any instrument, we have to tune our instrument in order for the most beautiful music to arise out of it. That is inspired by Osho, who is a Tantra. So in order for us to allow our most beautiful music to arise out of us, in order for our life to become this beautiful expression, we have to tune our instrument, tune our mind, tune our body, tune our spirit, tune our heart. And so we do that, with mindfulness, with consciousness, with understanding how we are creating this reality in every moment. And that is Tantra. So it's taking responsibility. It's embracing the dark and the light, like you spoke of earlier, and recognizing that we are co-creating this reality. So you are living Tantra as well, Matt, without even knowing it. Or maybe you did.
I don't know. Amazing. That's a very well-rounded way to express it. I've heard different things, but mostly it's around sexuality. But nothing as well-rounded as that, because I really like when it talks about, bringing the two together for creation, and bringing a deep element of consciousness into it, right? We're always triggered just to think with the root chakra. That's one of the ways I heard Burning Man expressed once, was it's a root chakra springboard. You go in thinking with your penis, and then you're launched into like a multi-dimensional experience that you were not ready for. Your root chakra tricked you into something else. So really, really beautiful and profound wisdom in there. I wish I could talk to you for longer. I know you have a lot of things to do. We didn't even talk to all the stuff you're doing, which is immense and it's spectacular. If you just want to leave us with some closing thoughts, and where people who are listening can find more about you and what you're up to.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I do a lot of webinars. They are mostly for women. So it's so interesting because I taught at the Eclipse, and I did one workshop that was a womb wisdom workshop, and I did one that was for men and women. And after that, it was called the Dance of Tantra. And actually a lot of men come up after. They're like, how can we work with you? And I was like, So yeah, it's inspiring me to see how I can offer what I do for you as well, because the work I do is in reverence to the masculine, and yet it's not directly, it's indirect, if that makes sense. The work that I mostly am focusing on, as I shared earlier, is really working with women, and yet I do want to be available if men are interested in doing some of these video modules and developing themselves in this way. Like, please reach out to me. And SofiahTom.com is my website, which is SofiahThom.com. I am really excited. So with this whole birth of Temple Body Art School this last year, I'm birthing this global mentorship that is starting on December 1st, and that's going through 3 different trimesters. So it's online and it's global and it's for women, and it's really weaving this whole working with the jade egg and like reclaiming our sexual sovereignty through all of these different practices and ways, and developing how we are in the world and reclaiming our power. And then I have 2, maybe even 3, but 2 for sure, Temple Body Arts guides training, so live trainings here with me in Costa Rica, which is an 11-day deep training into embodying womb wisdom and reclaiming sexual sovereignty. And so if women feel cool to become a Temple Body Arts guide, there's a whole certification that takes about 9 months, but it's online and in person. So I'm definitely ringing the bells of my heart and calling in the women who feel a yes and who are ready. And so you can find out more on my website. I do have a beautiful gift as well for anybody, which is 5 Temple Body Arts practices, and they're mudra mantras. So I work a lot with mudras, which are body positions or hand positions that seal in and anchor in energy, and then mantras, which are positive affirmations. Even the Ho'oponopono is like a mantra. So I have a free gift at templebodyarts.com where you'll receive these 5 mudra mantras to help really awaken and create your temple body, to even really know what does that mean. So that's a great place to start. And I'm grateful for this connection, and I've been inspired every time I speak to you, Matt, and love what you're doing, and just like lifting up all the beautiful people that are, we're like weaving this tapestry. And that's another piece, Tantra is about the weaving. It's about life being this tapestry, and that we're weaving all of these different aspects and parts together, and within ourselves and in our lives. And so trusting that recognition, like when we first met, and there's not many times where I just meet somebody and I'm just like there and present and like in this deep conversation, and just that recognition and that like yes within myself. So it's like that knowing of like yes, like being present and staying connected. And you never know where one little moment will open up and the path that it will take. And so just offering to everybody listening just to really learn to tune your inner compass and to listen and to know when something is in alignment with what you're truly saying yes to and desiring. And it's really about the practice. It's like a muscle. We have to work out that muscle of discernment, that muscle of listening, to be able to really begin to know and to trust ourselves. So thank you.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It was, when I saw you dancing, I was like, okay, it's interesting though, because, at Burning Man and stuff like that, men and women, the way they move their body, most of the time they're really embodied people, they have like a mastery over the body. So you definitely have that. And I appreciate, you coming on and sharing your incredible wisdom. You win the award for saying birthing the most times on the podcast, I think, by far. But no, really, really amazing stuff. I appreciate you coming on and sharing all that. And I know that there's going to be a lot of women out there specifically, because there's a lot of men on the podcast, and I try to actively seek women as well to, because oddly enough, it's mostly women listeners too, which I find interesting. But it kind of reminds me of back in the day when I'm doing like law of attraction workshops and meditation and self-development, and it's like women, and sometimes it was like 30 women and me. And I was like, this is interesting.
It's not so bad though.
No, yeah, exactly, not so bad. But yeah, really, I know this will be really helpful for a lot of people. So thank you for who you are and what you're doing. You've been working hard for a really long time, and you have a lot of wisdom and a lot of beautiful offers for people. So highly recommend everybody check out your websites and your work, and get connected if it resonates.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. I do Facebook Lives as well for my classes here at Danyasa. So that's a really great way. You can just tune in and join me as though you're in Costa Rica doing some yoga.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm definitely getting those mudras because through martial arts there's different ones. So I actually probably should already know them. So I'm curious to see what they are and how they work. So I'm gonna check it out too.
Mm.
So I'll be one of the guys being like, "Let me in. Like, how do I do this? I don't know what the hell I'm doing."
Yeah, you
So
can.
yeah, cool. Well, thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on, and
Yeah,
thanks
so
everybody
much.
for watching. See ya.
Thank you. Ciao.